Welcome to the channel. Welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. I'm Jamie. Before getting into it, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with the injury update on Sesko. At the time of recording this video, there's no official statement or announcement yet by the club. There has been a few bits that have been said by some credible sources, though. Firstly, with Fabrizio Romano saying the club's feeling internally is that Benjamin Sesko's injury is not serious, where they may consider bringing in a replacement. It will take time, but not super long. So Romano suggested, because there were some murmurings yesterday, if you watched yesterday's video, around potentially United going into the transfer market if he's out for a long time. According to Romano, then they're not in the position where they're starting to worry about having to dip into the market for a replacement, but it's still going to take some time, not super long. But we are still waiting for like an official announcement. Knowing my luck, I'll upload this video, and while it's uploading, something official will come out, or Romano will do a video. He always has a way of doing a video once my video is uploading, which but it is what it is. Now, Romano's since come out saying Manchester United expected to clarify extent of Benjamin Sesko's knee injury soon, but it is not a serious or too long problem. Key news ahead of January window for Man United, waiting for club statements. So we're still in that waiting phase to see how long potentially Benjamin Sesko is going to be out for. But the signs are that it's not that serious, but it could still keep him out for a bit of time. But until we get the official statement, we just don't know at this stage. And James Docker, we've had Laurie Whitwell, loads of United journalists all saying the same thing as well. James Docker said that Man United not expecting Sesko injury to be a bad one, but won't join up with Slovenia and will continue to be assessed at Carrington this week. And then also mentioning that Lisandro Martinez will train with Argentina this week as builds to full fitness and not play games. So with Martinez, he's travelled to the with the Argentina squad to do some more rehab work or to train with them, which I suppose is not a bad thing, especially when you think back at Carrington. Yes, we've got some players that are not travelling on international duties, but a majority of the squad have. So there's going to be a lot of training with like the reserves and stuff like that. So actually, I think it makes more sense for Lisandro to go to Argentina and train with the Argentina national team, because it's going to be probably a little bit more intense training than it would if he stayed at Old Trafford. Chris Wheeler said that Man United's given its approval to Lisandro Martinez that he can go train with the Argentina national team. He will not play any matches though. And Rich Faye said that United are taking a member of team, like I don't know, medical staff or a member of United performance team will support Martinez as he continues to return to action after such a long time out. A further update on his fitness is also expected ahead of the Premier League clash with Everton in 2 weeks. So I don't have an issue with that, because I'm sure they're taking their time and they're doing what they can with Martinez, but I think it makes more sense for him to, try to get up to speed, to try to see how he copes with that knee injury by being in a bit more of an intense training than probably what's going to be happening at Old Trafford, with majority of the squad being on international duty, and it may mainly being, the fringe players that haven't got international call-ups and like the 21s and stuff. So it'll be a much more intense session for Martinez. But yes, he's on the cusp, isn't he? It feels like he's getting there to potentially be back up and running, and we've missed him as well. So but yeah, that's going to be interesting. I'm sure obviously it's going to be baby steps as well. He's not going to come straight into the first team, I wouldn't imagine anyway, against Everton, but it might maybe make the bench and start seeing some substitute appearances from Martinez to get himself up and running. He's a massive player for us, so hopefully he can come back and he's the same butcher that he was before that injury. Because it's a big injury, that the knee injury that he's had. I just hope he can get back to his best, because we need him. But give us your thoughts and feelings on all of that in the comments below. Now let's move on to some transfer news. So talk with the town mainly at the moment, as you're probably aware, is the midfield and the situation there. So this is coming out from Florian Plettenberg, who is a a good journalist, but mainly I've always found mainly for German and Bundesliga news. Not normally the best, in my opinion, when it comes to information outside of the Bundesliga. However, saying that understand Man United remain keen on Elliot Anderson and have registered concrete interest Forest are informed a fee in the region of 100 to 120 million pound is still being demanded. So yeah, so I mean that's interesting to say that we've registered concrete interest. I don't know what that means. What picked up the phone and said, yeah, we want to, you know, speak to you regarding Anderson if you're planning to sell him or what. But 100 to 120 million pounds, that's a massive, massive amount of money, you know, for a player, especially for United. And I don't know if we're going to go anywhere near that sort of figure because you know, we got Mbumo for less than that, Cunha less than that. I think I think we'd walk away from these sort of prices and deals because that's exactly what's cost us, you know, where we are at the moment, going for these massive, massive salary like fees. I'm not entirely convinced. It'd be interesting though, because Ben Jacobs the other day said, "Don't be shocked if Elliot Anderson's potential move ends up costing less than what's currently being reported." I actually know a bit more than I'm prepared to reveal right now. So according to Ben Jacobs, he was saying that actually, you know, the figures that are being touted to the 100, 120 million pounds for Elliot Anderson, according to Ben Jacobs, is saying that the potential move will end up costing less than that. And it seems like Anderson is the main name at the moment. Like in my opinion, he's overtaken Carlos Baleba as the sort of main man for midfield, or the main name that we're being linked with anyway in the midfield. And it's not surprising why I was looking at his stats and data the other day. Like he ranks in the top, if not the top midfielder for, you know, a very, very large number of stats that you would want from a midfielder: progressive passes, ball carrying, tackles, interceptions. Like he's, you know, there's a reason why he's very highly regarded. But those sort of deals, it doesn't feel like are going to be January ones unless something mad happens and, you know, Forest decide that they want to cash in on him early to boost their squad. But then you've got the World Cup situation as well for the player, so it's unlikely. I think that one would be a January deal. More realistically, it's going to be a summer deal. But interesting that Florian Plettenberg said that we've registered our interest in him as well. So so maybe we are looking at things behind the scenes. But like I said, I think that one's going to be a summer deal personally. Now, he's not the only midfielder that we've been linked with. We've got a new midfielder for those keeping tally. I think we're up to, you know, it's got to be 20 plus midfielders that we've been linked with now since the transfer window closed. And lo and behold, the world knows United are going to be prioritising midfielders in 2026. That's come out from like Ornstein and Romano and everything like that. So therefore, we are getting linked with pretty much every midfielder on the planet, it feels like at the moment. But let's throw another name in the hat. So Graham Bailey has said that Alex Scott is emerging as a real name now, and United are well aware of his talents. I am told they watched him and liked him during his Bristol City days, but now he is maturing into a dominant player. We know all the big names linked to United heading into the new year, ahead of next summer. But keep an eye on Scott. He is a possibility for a number of clubs, and that includes United. So Graham Bailey, who is a little bit hit and miss, so I would say straight away take with a like a slight pinch of salt. But he's normally quite decent when it comes to like getting information around who teams are scouting and looking at and stuff. But according to him, suggesting that Alex Scott from Bournemouth could potentially be one that United are looking into. So I actually read through the report, came from a report in United in Focus, saying that Manchester United are scouring the transfer market for central midfielders, and Bournemouth's Alex Scott is the latest name on Ineos's radar. And then it goes on to give a bit around Graham Bailey and the quotes that I've just shared with you on there. It said, Amram wants an athletic midfielder in 2026 to strengthen his midfield options, and Scott fits the bill. Under Andoni Iraola at Bournemouth, Scott plays as a defensive midfielder in a double pivot, the same position he would be asked to play under Amram at Old Trafford. Scott has appeared in all of Bournemouth's 11 Premier League matches so far this season, including 10 starts. And then according to Who Scored, Scott's strengths are his tackling and long shots. He ranks highly for tackles per 90 minutes and short passes completed. United have been overly reliant on Casemiro this season, and Ineos are tasked with finding a successor to the Brazilian. Scott is one of several transfer interest heading into 2026, and there are promising signs he could be a future superstar. So according to the report, ticks the boxes of maybe what we're looking for, especially if he's playing in a double pivot with Bournemouth. Not a player I've watched a ton of. I haven't watched very many Bournemouth games this season, so I'm not going to be one to share my opinion. Doing some quick, research and stuff, seems decent. Nothing more than that on his stats and data and stuff. But according to that, tackling long shots and highly and for tackles, and like it says in the report, can play in a double pivot as well. So that could be one to potentially keep an eye on and pay attention to. Maybe another player that I'd want to see a bit more credibility though before getting too excited. But does tick a lot of the boxes. Young, homegrown as well, English. Would Premier League experience, Championship experience as well. So and if they do see him as actually on that upward trend, it's an interesting name anyway to throw in the ring of all the other interesting names that we have been linked with in the midfield. I would want to see a bit more credibility. And again, I don't know whether that would be like a January deal or not. Again, feels like a summer one. I don't know Bournemouth's appetite to sell in the January transfer window, but we'll keep an eye on that one for you. Interestingly, though, in the report, it was saying that we've been over-reliant on Casemiro this season. Now, Graham Bailey, again, has been saying that United have made contact with Casemiro's camp and floated the idea of a contract extension. Casemiro is receptive to the idea of staying, but the club have made it clear that the terms of a deal would have to be very different to his current contract because he is our highest paid player, like on 300 odd grand a week, I think it is. United are looking at a performance-based deal with a drastically reduced contract that has substantial appearance fees built in. Both sides are yet to finalise any figures, but talk has been positive with both player and club willing to find an agreement. Casemiro's data continues to impress staff, which is another reason his stay is being considered. So that's the first journalist that's come out and thrown their name in the ring of, because there have been murmurings of maybe United looking to do a sort of contract extension or some sort of deal with Casemiro. And that's the first journalist I've heard that's actually said yes, that we are in contact with his agent, potentially looking at a pay-as-you-play or a more bonus-based wage structure to obviously get the wage bill down, but still financially reward Casemiro. So maybe he's not too out of pocket to do that. I don't know what I feel about that. I do think that, his performances recently, we need him. We rely on him. And if we're in Europe next season, could he do a job in Europe as well? If you're going to bring in a young midfielder like an Anderson or an Alex Scott that we've just mentioned there, let's play devil's advocate and say that that's another name that potentially we're looking for. Having someone like Casemiro and his experience, is it an idea to have them work under him? I don't know. I think if you asked me this last year, I would have definitely been saying no, absolutely not. We should not be keeping Casemiro because he couldn't run, but his performances were also really bad as well. But then, since he's come back into the first team picture, was it around? Because even when Amram first came in, he wasn't picking Casemiro, but then when he came back in and he was playing the Europa League games, he's just built upon that as well. I just don't know. I mean, if it depends on the cost. If it's like a much lower wage and, like it says in that report, a sort of bonus-based deal where you get paid for performances or bonuses for performances and like a much lower salary, wouldn't be against it doing that. I just don't think there's value at like 300 odd grand a week for Casemiro per year, but we'll have to wait. But again, it's the first journalist that's kind of come out and put their name on the hat to say, actually, yeah, maybe they are in talks about doing something with his contract. There's no new updates on Maguire as well, because he's the other player, isn't he, that potentially we are looking at the contract situation with. But yeah, give us your thoughts on Casemiro. Would you do that if it was like a lower wage, some sort of bonus deal or a pay-as-you-play type contract? Obviously, we'll need to wait for the details. We'll wait to see actually if that's true or not first. But as a theory, would you be up for that for Casemiro? Give me your shouts in the comments. Be interested to hear what you think regarding that. Now, keeping with transfers though, this is coming from Sky saying that Manchester United are not expected to bring in any incomings in the January transfer window. As things stand, despite losing players to the African Cup of Nations, the club could move in January if a player becomes available, such as a target they are aiming for in the future window. However, they are not expected to make a reactive signing based on 3 players going to AFCON or the recent injury to striker Benjamin Sesko. So Sky is pretty much saying what's been the narrative over the last week or so, is that United are not going to panic buy and buy players in January just for the sake of buying players. They're not going to look at short-term stopgap signings like loan signings or anything like that, unless it is a player that we want for the summer anyway. And then, like, let's say hypothetically, we see Conor Gallagher as the right man and we want to sign him in the summer. Could we do a loan with an option to buy or an obligation to buy? That sort of thing they might do, but they're not going to just buy players for the sake of buying players. They only want the players if they're the right player that we would go for anyway in the summer as part of our recruitment strategy and as part of our rebuild, and they become available in January, then we might make a move. But if they don't, then we go with what we've got. And, I don't know if that's the right decision or the wrong decision. What I do know is that in the past, when we've panic buyed or we panic bought in January and we've got short-term loans, has it really helped us out massively? I'm not entirely convinced that it has. So, it's one of these, isn't it? I know some of you in the comments will be mixed on that, saying, well, we should just go for somebody anyway because we need players. I can see that point of view. But then on the flip side, if you're getting players in and wasting the money, what's the point in that? Is that there's no longevity in it as well. Yeah, give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. I think that, like I said, it's the going narrative anyway, is that United are only going to do deals in January if they are the players that we want anyway as part of the long-term transfer strategy and the recruitment strategy. And that's company, Jason Wilcox, he had the interview the other day, didn't he? And he was pretty much saying the same things, that we want to go for players that we know are the right players, not just players for the sake of signing players, which, it is what it is. But give us your shouts on that in the comments below. And now this story I'm going to go through next it's more of an opinion piece, but interesting option and definitely a good shout, and definitely caught my attention because it's definitely a player that I would be interested in. So this comes from Fraser Fletcher and Team Talk. Now, Team Talk, they're a gossip outlet. They've got some mixed journalists, some decent and some not decent ones. Fraser Fletcher is medium, I would say. So pinch of salt material anyway. However, saying that United rival Liverpool for classy Bundesliga star as contract uncertainty sparks a transfer battle. So Borussia Dortmund centre-back Nico Schlotterbeck is emerging as one of the hottest transfer targets in European football, with Manchester United joining Liverpool in monitoring the 25-year-old. As Schlotterbeck enters the final 18 months of his contract at Dortmund, the possibility of an exit is growing increasingly likely, potentially sparking a bidding war among top clubs. The German international, known for his commanding presence, precise passing and ability to read the game, has been a cornerstone of Dortmund's backline since joining from Freiburg in 2022. And then it goes on to say, with Dortmund facing financial pressures and a need to balance the books, a lucrative offer could tempt the club to cash in sooner rather than risk losing him for a reduced fee or even on a free transfer the following year. Now, Schlotterbeck I think is a really, really good defender, and definitely one that I would be interested in United going for. As it mentions, he's really good, quick, powerful, good on the ball. Like he's a very, very good player. Does say in the report though that Barcelona are interested in him, but I didn't realize he was in the last 18 months of his contract. So that's what the piece is effectively saying. Look, he's in the last 18 months of his contract. Could there be an opportunity to clubs for go to him now? Because if Dortmund need the money, and now's the right time to sell him, because if you goes into the last 12 months of his contract, which it will be in the summer, then his price will he'll be devalued in price. Let me put my teeth back in, which is an interesting one. It does say that Barcelona are scouting him and looking at Schlotterbeck as well. It says the La Liga giants see him as a long-term option and a key piece to their defensive rebuild, but United or Liverpool could scupper their plans. So again, it is an opinion piece. It's not saying that United are definitely interested in him as it goes through, and then it just says that United are looking for centre-halves, and so are Liverpool. But it does say that Dortmund value Schlotterbeck at around 40 to 50 million euros, so 35 to 44 million pounds. But his contract situation may drive that figure down. So this is what I'm talking about. Potentially there being like an opportunity to go for somebody in January if Dortmund did decide, well, actually, maybe now's the time to cash in. And if he is one of the long-term targets anyway, which I'd imagine he'll be on our shortlist, surely someone like Schlotterbeck is he's a very, very good defender. It says, with January window approaching, expect negotiations to heat up. For now, the defender remains focused on Dortmund, blah, blah, blah. And then it's just, so again, it is an opinion piece saying that United and Liverpool could potentially be looking at Schlotterbeck if he becomes available, if Dortmund want to sell him, and if if he doesn't sign a new contract as well. But give us your thoughts on Schlotterbeck. I think he'd be really good. But the reports were the other day that United are maybe looking at a centre-half, but maybe more for the summer. But this is what we're talking about with opportunities. If the opportunity comes up and you make a cheeky bid in January and Dortmund are like, well, hold on, we need the money. We want attacking reinforcements. story yesterday about Jadon Sancho. Potentially they wanted to go for Sancho to improve their attack and their forward line. Would they see that as an opportunity to maybe cash in January? I don't know. And I don't know the appetite for us at the moment to get a centre-back in, especially as we mentioned with Martinez on his way back for that like left-sided centre-back position. I think the reading between the lines is a waiting to see Shaw's fitness and availability for this season and how Martinez comes back from his injury as well before pushing maybe for like a centre-half. But he would definitely be a name that I would be all over United going for. But again, it's an opinion piece. Take it with a pinch of salt for now, but give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. And then let's go through a little bit about exit news. So Rasmus Højlund does not feel he is a Manchester United player on loan. He feels he is 100% a Napoli player. The club have every intention of signing him. So that's despite the come from Fabrizio Romano, despite the reports and there was a bit of, he got I think a little bit of criticism for his recent performances over there, but apparently, you know, Napoli still have every intention of signing him, which is good because that's money for us in the summer transfer window. Sport from Spain is saying that Marcus Rashford will have to significantly reduce his £300,000 a week wages if he is to secure a long-term contract with Barcelona. Barcelona are not ready to go over £200,000 a week for him, and if Rashford doesn't lower his wages, he will not be signed permanently. And I think there's an appetite for well, obviously Rashford wants to stay there and he's doing well. You know, why would he not? He's taking a pay cut already to go to Barcelona. So I can see maybe him being in a position where he's willing to accept a reduced salary if it means getting his dream move to Barcelona and staying there. But again, we'll need to wait and see how that all unfolds. And it depends obviously on Barcelona's financial situation as well, doesn't it? And then Jadon Sancho. Man United are very likely to let Jadon Sancho leave for free next summer, as they are not thinking of activating the option of one more year in his contract. So that came from Fabrizio Romano yesterday as well, following on the reports that, you know, maybe Dortmund were looking at him, maybe Aston Villa were not overly happy with him on his loan as well. But yeah, it seems that Sancho, we're not going to do the +1, which I'm cool with. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Give us your thoughts on all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest news and transfer updates. And don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.